I think we're good to go.
All right, I will call the meeting to order, and we will get started. The first agenda item tonight is the appointment of a police chief, which is something that doesn't happen very often, and probably now won't happen for many, many years. I will actually make a large bet that no one on this current board will be here for the next police chief. Before we appoint our new police chief, I would like to thank our previous police chief, Mike Cerrone, who served for over 45 years in law enforcement after getting out of the Navy. So his, he had a half a century of public service. 42 years of that were in Irvington. I think he said he was chief for 13 years. So, it was a heck of a run. We went through, there's a kind of an interesting bond that happens between, I think, the police chief and a mayor, because the police chief is always tasked with calling the mayor with bad news. So through the years, we had a lot of difficult conversations. But Chief Cerrone always was calm, and, he never had an ounce of panic in him. And he was always ready to, tackle whatever was in front of him, from, responding to Sandy, to a police officer's car accident, to, our first murder in over 40 years. So it was, he was a great asset, and, we're going to miss him, and we all wish him the very best in his retirement. We hope it's long and a healthy retirement. But the excitement tonight is because we have Francis Pignatelli, who was actually the first police officer that I swore in as mayor about 10 years ago or so. And Frank has quickly risen through the ranks based on his intelligence, his dedication, his trustworthiness, his leadership abilities. And, I think I speak for the entire board and the entire village when I say, you talk about the right person for the job at the right time. I think Frank is that person, and I think he's going to be for decades to come. I couldn't get him to sign a 30-year contract. I couldn't get him to sign a 40-year contract yesterday, but I think he said yes for 30 years. So I think we're in good hands. But it was, we actually had a ceremonial swearing in yesterday for Frank. It was great because I got to meet his wife, Angela, and his son and daughter. And it was just a really great day. But this is kind of the official swearing in for the public. I see Frank already has his background all set now. He's already stepped it up a little bit. We are all thrilled to have Frank as the leader of our police department. So Frank, if you want to raise your right hand on Zoom, and
hold on 1 second, Mayor.
Nope.
You do have to.
I have to do the resolution first. So let me vote for you first, Frank. Sorry about that.
No problem.
You can get ready. Resolved to provisionally appoint Francis Pignatelli as police chief at an annual salary of $185,000, effective February 18th, 2021. I'll make the motion if I can have a second.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. All right, now we can do the ceremonial swearing in again, Francis.
Got it.
I don't think I've ever called you Francis before. You can repeat after me. I, Francis Pignatelli,
I, Francis Pignatelli,
do solemnly swear that I will support the Constitution of the United States
I do solemnly swear that I will support the Constitution of the United States
and the Constitution of the State of New York,
and the Constitution of the State of New York,
and that I will faithfully discharge the duties of the office of police chief
the duties of the office of police chief
according to the best of my ability.
according to the best of my ability.
Congratulations once again, Frank.
Thank you very much.
We're all very happy to have you, and we look forward to working with you, as in the beginning, and, as you grow into your new role, which I think you already have grown into. So we're excited to work with you, and, we can't wait to see what's coming down the pipe from you. So congratulations, rest up, and we look forward to you working hard for everyone in Irvington.
Thank you very much. I really much appreciate it.
Thanks a lot. Thanks to your family as well.
Absolutely. Thank you.
Congratulations.
Thank you, Frank. You're welcome to stay on, but I'm sure you want to get back to your family.
Yeah.
Have-
That's right. Have a good night, everybody.
All right, take care.
Good night.
Bye.
I have the one announcement that's on here, which is the check over $25,000 I will do first. Pursuant to the village purchasing policy, I was presented with a check over $25,000 for Island Tech Services, which was for a police vehicle computer upgrade from the capital account for $32,550. At the ceremonial swearing in yesterday and Chief Cerrone's retirement, we also had several awards given to police officers. And we typically have an annually we have our officers in to receive the awards and get some recognition. As we know, often our police officers kind of just quietly go about their business and don't get much acclaim for it. Whether it's on Thanksgiving Day, Christmas Day, or July 4th, they're always working. So it's nice to take at least one day a year and thank them for all their work, and also to recognize those that have gone above and beyond and won awards. So the first one actually goes to Frank when he was a sergeant, but he actually won the Medal for Valor, which I think is about the highest award you can win in the police department. The Medal of Valor is awarded for intelligently performing an outstanding act of bravery without regard for his own personal safety. Assigned to the Greenburgh townwide SWAT team, then Sergeant Francis Pignatelli, while detailed to the takedown of an armed and barricaded suspect wanted for murder in Connecticut, came under direct fire of the suspect while pulling a fellow officer to safety after that officer had been shot in the chest. For rescuing a fellow officer while under the direct fire of an armed suspect wanted for murder, Lieutenant Francis Pignatelli, now Chief Francis Pignatelli, is awarded the Irvington Police Department's Medal for Valor. That was kind of a very harrowing event that Frank was one of our officers that was part of the Greenburgh SWAT team. That was over in Ardsley at the Ardsley Acres Hotel. The FBI actually tracked a suspect there, and it turned into a shootout. He opened fire on the police. Greenburgh officer was shot in the chest. Actually, someone I went to high school with, Stephen Diastis, he's okay now. Luckily, he had his vest on, but Frank, kind of rescued him and pulled him to safety. So it was a harrowing event. I remember that call from Chief Cerrone. Luckily, everyone was safe, but congratulations to our new chief for his Medal of Valor. Next, we have a commendation medal. Let me see this one here. This one goes to Detective Sergeant Kevin Johnson, Detective Jean-Marc Grelier, and a officer from Dobbs Ferry Police that was assisting Justin Mariscarella. They get their Meritorious Police Duty Medal. While assigned to the Greenburgh Drug and Alcohol Task Force, the three officers were located a suspect wanted for murder in Connecticut, successfully located an armed suspect, and securely held the location to the arrival of additional resources while also evacuating civilians from the area. So I'd like to congratulate all three of them for getting the commendation medal. Then we also have the Meritorious Police, that's the same one. There's actually two other officers that received the Meritorious Police Duty Medal. That was Scott Dunleavy and John Nairati for a different event. They responded to a burglar alarm at an Irvington residence. Upon arrival, officers quickly apprehended one perpetrator in the basement of the residence. After interrogating the suspect, he revealed that the crime had been pre-planned and targeted armed home invasion consisting of 5-man invasion team, as well as an off-site, I think that's supposed to be support team. Further determined that it was a military-style mission with several objectives, including assaulting family members, beating the target until he provided the information they wanted, theft of currency believed to be at the residence, and a planned escape in numerous directions following by a rendezvous elsewhere. The case is currently being prosecuted federally, and all perpetrators have been identified. So congratulations to Scott Dunleavy and John Nairati for working on that one. And then one more also goes to John Nairati. This is the Excellent Police Duty Award, which is an award for demonstrating valuable and intelligent police service. After receiving radio notifications of perpetrators fleeing a vehicle subsequent to a traffic stop in Sleepy Hollow, Irvington Police Officer John Nairati, while canvassing for the perpetrators, observed a suspect matching description of the fleeing driver entering the passenger side of a suspicious vehicle near the Irvington-Tarrytown border. Officer Nairati stopped and held the suspect until Sleepy Hollow police arrived and positively identified him as the wanted party. It was further determined that the vehicle initially stopped had just been stolen from a residence in Irvington. So again, great job all around on those awards. We salute your bravery and your excellence. And, we wish we could all be together to celebrate in person. Some of the officers were actually able to attend yesterday, but it's important to acknowledge them today. And that's all I have for announcements, unless anybody else has anything. Okay, I will move on to correspondence, which we have one rather lengthy letter from Greg Pastucha. I'm not going to probably read the whole thing. The whole thing is posted, but I'll start it anyway. Irvington's Matheson Park is an absolute gem. The park sits on the Hudson River and has long served as a place for Irvington residents and their guests to enjoy. As a child, most of my memories were class picnics, walks, and the 4th of July fireworks. I went to the park as a kid a lot. My parents never thought twice about sending me to the park with friends. Most of the time, we were unattended by adults. The park was a big part of my growing up in Irvington. I would have no problem with allowing my child and a friend or two to go to the park unattended in a few years. He's only 8 now. Unlike a lot of Irvington, the park hasn't changed that much. It is as safe and beautiful as it was years ago. It's my understanding that a group of people from the Irvington Activist Facebook group, not sure if they are residents or taxpayers, would like to open the park to the general public. Notwithstanding the 400 acres of Irvington Woods, including the O'Hara Nature Center, Peter Early Trails, and Irvington Reservoir, it's already public parkland, and Scenic Hudson Park in Irvington is already open to the public. I guess the idea is that other people may not be as fortunate, and by inviting a larger number of more diverse people to Irvington parks, Irvington benefits by exposure to more cultural and economic diversity. Hope I'm being fair and not underrepresenting the viewpoint of the group. Then on the other hand, there's a group that brings another viewpoint accompanied by questions and a lot of what ifs. Questions I've heard are, could there be additional garbage? What if there's weapons, drugs, or spray paint cans brought into our village park? As a result, it takes on a different appearance in a short period of time. I would say these questions are worth talking about. Then people that pay Irvington taxes have to foot the bill for more garbage removal. Maybe there'll be a higher number of complaints, which even more necessitate a full-time police position to monitor the park. Maybe we'll see unpleasant graffiti or even occasional hypodermic needle. I do speak in favor of the Recreation and Parks Advisory Committee's recommendation to drop the phrase village residents and guests only from the sign of the park's entrance and replace it with park permit required. Further, the report of the committee recommended extending park permits to residents of East Irvington. That makes sense. They are part of the community. Even in the crowd of favoring opening the park to all amidst more people, need more maintenance and policing. It's a safe bet. That means more taxes too. Up until now, everyone reading this hasn't heard anything new or has already made up their mind about the course of the park. I want to offer another argument, something to think about. I'm 100% in favor of cultural and economic diversity. First, I wonder if raising taxes in a community has a positive effect on diversification. Even a small increase in taxes in a community that has very high taxes already makes it harder for some to enter our community at a more permanent level. If you like the idea of diversity, you can't really argue that higher taxes invite a more diverse crowd to move into Irvington. As I see it, the progressive town you moved into needs to solve a giant diversity problem and will not be solved or helped at all by signing your name on a park petition. It requires real thought. It makes the whole idea of this park debate seem like an appeasement to the people who may look up the hill at Irvington's multi-million-dollar homes only to realize this is an elite community that has tossed them a table scrap and nothing more. If Irvington decides to share its village park, how does it undo the decision if it perhaps doesn't work out? I know this has been thought about. I mean, the decision makers in our town have already come up with 20 residents willing to give up their time, bolstered by signed commitment letters. Irvington's legal scholars have all but guaranteed there will be no liability issues, and the 2,500 signatures on the petition are verified and authenticated. I'm not really sure what any of that means. If you're on the side of opening the park and you haven't talked to the officers patrolling Scenic Hudson Park about their experience, and to Chris DePauli and Scott Brennan, then you haven't really done your research. So let me explain. Between Chris and Scott, there's a combined 60 years working in the Irvington Parks Department. Combined 18,000 times they have stepped foot in Matheson Park. You might ask them about the condition of the buildings, the present and future upkeep, the park's capacity and egress issues, the problems that have been come up in the past. While you're being educated by the people who know the park better than anyone else, make sure you thank them for doing an outstanding job. That's the least you can do before you double their workload. In conclusion, based on the above, my family and I are in favor of making Irvington more diverse, but not at the expense of the comfort and safety of a small village community. Let's keep Matheson Park part of our community. Sincerely, Greg Pastucha. I think the only thing I won't really comment much on that other than to say that the only time the park has an attendant, if it does, is on weekends from Memorial Day to Labor Day, not even every weekend then. So there are about 320 20 days a year where someone could go into the park with hypodermic needles and spray paint cans, and doesn't seem to be the case, but I'm getting a little off topic. But that was the only correspondence. I will now open up for public comment that isn't related to the public hearing. But if there is no public comment, I'll move on to the consent agenda. I don't know if anyone has any questions on the consent agenda. Otherwise, I will make a motion to approve the consent agenda if I can have a second.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Now we'll get into the continuation of a public meeting, public hearing to consider a local law amending the Irvington zoning code to create the multifamily office district. So the public hearing is now in session once again. I guess before anyone else speaks, I'll just say that last Wednesday at our work session, we had two presentations from two people organized by the Housing Committee that were very experienced in the intricacies of affordable housing and how it works and how the system works in New York State. We also had a presentation from one of the property owners, and I think it gave the board quite a bit to think about. So that's how I'll preface this. If anybody else from the board or Marianne or Larry want to say anything, feel free. Otherwise, I will open it up to public comment once again. If anybody would like to speak about this, they can raise their hand.
Brian, let me just say, because a couple of people have asked, there has not been any draft after the last one that was posted at the last meeting and the work session. So January 28th is the last draft.
Yeah, I think, I feel like the ball's kind of in the Board of Trustees court now to see if we want, like, what changes we want to make. Give them to you, Marianne, and then you can draft them, and then we'll obviously post it and open it up for public debate again.
Well, I just wanted to mention that although I didn't hear all that meeting, I did watch the video, and I had an hour-long talk with Larry Schaffer this morning, so I feel like I'm up to date on the latest.
Excellent. Peter M. had raised his hand, but he put it down, so I'm guessing he does not want to speak. But if anybody would like to speak, otherwise, obviously, we're not voting tonight, so Deborah Flock.
All right,
Good evening. We can hear you fine. Yep.
great. Okay, I'm just giving a very brief report from the Housing Committee to update you. Earlier this week, we met with several representatives of the neighboring properties who have written various letters and have been involved in the process probably since close to the beginning. And it was, from our point of view, a very informative and productive meeting. We are also planning on meeting in the next week or so to come up with a list of, hopefully to come up with a consensus list of recommendations relating to affordability, density, preservation of historic structures, setbacks, and other concerns raised by people in the course of this whole process. So, in other words, we're working on it.
Great. Well, I would like to say that, I think the Housing Committee has done an excellent job of, providing information to help the Board of Trustees make a decision. We would obviously like to thank you guys for that. We would like to thank the neighbors, especially the Strawberry Hill neighbors, that have been really great about, providing, constructive criticism. It's not just a complete NIMBY thing. It's we've obviously changed this quite a bit over the 18 months or 2 years, whatever it's been now, that we've been working on this. And I understand it's not fun for anyone to have to keep following this issue and continue to work on it. But, it's obviously it's something that we want to get right. So we really appreciate all the work that the Housing Committee's done. It's been great, especially yourself and Tom, and even arranging speakers for us. So we really appreciate it. Frankly, we couldn't have done it. We couldn't have done a lot of it without you, or we'd be a lot further behind. And we've had a lot of changes because of, the Housing Committee's ideas and comments, the neighbors' ideas and comments. And we appreciate everyone's efforts on this. We said we wouldn't rush it, but that also the flip side of that coin is that it goes on for a long time, and people have to continue to pay attention. I see Kimberly Raby on here. I know it's probably a little easier now with Zoom, but getting babysitters and for months and months, and it's been tough. But we want to get this right. We think this is obviously we think this is a very important zoning change. So we want to keep working on this until we get it as right as possible. So we thank everyone for their continued and honestly the Maxon property. Rubenzals have been great, working with us as well. Their lawyers, their planner, it's been all this information has really helped us to tweak this law over all this time. And that's what we want to do. We wanted to get input. We never claimed to be the 5 smartest people in Irvington. We just kind of, we have a kind of a goal and a vision, and we want to help, we want you to help us get there. So
I don't mean to give Deb more homework, but
but I said nice things, so she's ripe for it. Yeah.
If she isn't inclined, I can do this. But I noticed, Deb, that you brought up something that you and I are both familiar with, as are a lot of people, which is the historic preservation tax credit. And what I've noticed when I've looked at both state things and federal things, that they change, and sometimes they're a little more generous and the rules change. But if you have or haven't thought about getting any update, that might be helpful. It's not a major part, but it could come into play. So
Right. I'll try to find out. I don't know what the current rules and regulations are, but we should
that's
be
the
able
thing.
to
When
find
I
out.
think I know, and then I look again, and that's like, whoops, some law changed. So anyway, you and I can talk about it if you wish, but I
Okay, sounds good.
put in there, I thought, aha. Thanks a lot.
Will do.
Thanks.
Would anyone else like to speak up about the zoning code changes? Otherwise, obviously, there will be another opportunity again. All right. Well, the public hearing stays open, so we look forward to virtually seeing all of you again March 1st, right, Larry? That's our next meeting. It's actually as early as it can possibly be in March on the 1st. So
That's right, March 1st.
that'll be when we might have a new draft by then. I'm not sure. We might need another work session. We'll see, but we'll obviously let everyone know if we'll post a new draft. So next item on the agenda is the Juneteenth Day recognition. Connie, did you want to mention anything about this?
Yeah, so I looked at our resolution that we did last year in June. And I noticed that it was only for 1 year, as we put just 2020 in the date. So I did a little research, and I thought this was the case, but the state of New York, after that meeting, is actually finished in October. The state actually made Juneteenth an official state holiday, not just recognized, but kind of moved it up a notch so that it's, it would be a state employee vacation even. I'm not talking, it doesn't apply to individual communities, but so I looked at our language and I thought we should update it a little to make it apply this coming year. And so what you see in the agenda has 2 changes. One is a new whereas clause. I can read this whole thing if you want, and I can tell you which part is new. And then the last part changes the date. So do you want me to read it? Or are you in your
Sure.
reading?
No, feel free. Feel free. I hog all the reading here, so.
Sure, okay, all right, you have the correspondence. Okay, so whereas, this would be a resolution, whereas Juneteenth celebrates the end of slavery in the United States and is also known as Emancipation Day, Juneteenth Independence Day, and Black Independence Day, and whereas on June 19th, 1865, Major General Gordon Granger, a New Yorker and a West Point graduate, arrived in Galveston, Texas, and announced the end of the Civil War and the end of slavery, which had come 2.5 years earlier when President Lincoln issued the Emancipation Proclamation on January 1st, 1863. And whereas many slave owners in Texas had continued to hold their enslaved people captive after the original announcement, and therefore it was on June 19th, 1865, that approximately 250,000 former enslaved Africans learned that legal slavery had ended. And whereas Juneteenth became then and continues to be today a symbolic date representing African-American freedom, and whereas New York State recognized Juneteenth as a holiday by New York Executive Law, Chapter 168-A3 in 2004, but whereas, this is the new part, on October 14th, 2020, New York State Governor Cuomo signed the legislation. You can find that the Senate bill is 08598. The Assembly bill was 10628, designating Juneteenth as a public holiday in New York State, and earlier issued an executive order recognizing Juneteenth as a holiday for New York State employees. And whereas the Village of Irvington Board of Trustees holds a strong belief in the value of equity and inclusion and fair treatment of all those who live, work, or visit in the village, therefore be it resolved that June 19th, 2021, Juneteenth, is officially recognized by the Village of Irvington as a day to honor, celebrate, and commemorate the African-American community in Irvington. That's the resolution. So I can make a motion to that effect.
I will second it.
Okay.
All in favor? Aye. I will say that this is, this obviously is an important step, and, kind of our, the celebration, we'll see where we are with COVID and everything else, because I think last year when we, kind of Kelly Scott and others had organized kind of an impromptu Juneteenth celebration, we never thought that we'd still be in the depths of COVID. We said we'd hope to have a village-wide kind of celebration again. We'll as we get a little closer, and hopefully I read some good news that they think vaccines will be really rolling out soon. But in much bigger numbers and at all of our local CVSs and Walgreens. Maybe by June we can potentially have a larger scale celebration again. So that part of the celebration is still under consideration, and we'll figure out what it is. But this is an important step, I think, that we've just made to ensure it's recognized properly here in Irvington. So
it happens to be a Saturday, and I saw one question to state employees, because it doesn't mention, the Friday before is a vacation or the Monday after. So it doesn't affect us anyway, but I just thought that was interesting. It is a Saturday, and, I certainly, would love to be part of something on the steps of Village Hall and have, some statements and work with any community groups that are interested.
Yep. Great. Now, something that I don't know anything about, or I shouldn't say anything. I know very little about a release regarding River House condominium.
Okay, can you hear me?
Yeah.
Let me explain this. It's complicated, but it's really very simple for you guys. Rand Opachich has his architect's office at 14 North Astor in River House.
Yep.
And he wants to convert part of it as a residential unit for himself and his wife. Now, there's no changes at all to the exterior of the building, but it had to come before the planning board for site plan approval, because site plan review is required if any change in the building will increase the number of dwelling units in the building. So that's why it had to come before the planning board. And in their planning board submission, I noticed in the ZBA decision that was issued back in 1986, the one permitting 12 residential units in the building, that the ZBA made its decision conditional on an agreement that had been entered into between the then owner of River House property, and the owners of 19 and 32 North Continent. Now, these neighbors had brought a proceeding before the Zoning Board of Appeals to challenge the building inspector's determination that 12 units were permitted. Now, as I said, and the ZBA did permit the 12 units, but its decision was conditional on an agreement between the two sets of neighbors and the owner of the River House property that provided one, and that's the most important for this reason, for this meeting, is there could only be 12 residential units in the building. And that's how many are there before Opasich's conversion. And the conditions also established the building profile with the maximum size and height. The concern of the neighbors was it blocking the view of the river. So the agreement actually drew a profile of the building and said it couldn't exceed that profile. And as a further condition, the agreement had to be recorded as a restrictive covenant against the property in the Westchester County Division of Land Records, which it was. And the restrictive covenant provides that it's enforceable by the owners of 19 Continent and 32 Continent, and there's any subsequent owners of the property, and by the village. So the only provision in the restrictive covenant that's relevant to the conversion of the architect's office is the and now quote it, the number of residential units shall not exceed 12 units. So we needed to get around this. So I spoke with Mr. Opachich's attorney, and what they did was they prepared a release of so much of the covenant, of the restrictive covenant, that limited the number of units to 12. And then that would have to be signed by the current owners of 19 Continent and 32 North Continent and the village, because the village had been an enforcer on it. So they drafted the release. We went back and forth. This was happening before the planning board, always conditional on the village signing it. And then yesterday I received from Opachich's attorney the releases signed by both the current owners of 19 North Continent and 32 North Continent. So it's good to go if the village agrees to the release as well. So if you sign a release to this, it'll also get filed in land records. And all it says is that there can be 13 residential units.
I think your original summation that it's complicated but very easy for us was very accurate.
That's right. Yeah.
Anyone have any questions on this? All right. Resolved to approve a declaration of release of restrictive covenant with respect to the River House condominium complex located at 27 North Buckout Street, and to authorize the mayor to execute all necessary documents. I'll make the motion if I can have a second.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Okay, I'll let them know, and then I'll have Steinmetz's firm is representing Opachich on this. Have them get in touch with Larry or you, Brian, about getting Brian's signature on it, because it's going to have to get signed and notarized.
Yep. So yeah, just let me know, Larry, and I'll pop in, and we'll the day when there's a notary in Village Hall.
Okay.
Actually, tomorrow might not be a bad day if you're not busy, so we'll catch up.
It's
Okay.
Friday. Come on, I
Okay.
always have an easy Friday. Just let me know. I'll be around.
We'll do.
All right. Next up is a budget workshop, water, sewer, and DPW.
Okay. Just give me a second here. I'm putting
Jim Englishby.
Jim Englishby up on the witness stand. All right.
What's up, Jim?
Hello, how are you?
Good. Sorry we don't get to see you in person, but
Hold on. Maybe you will.
oh, there you go.
Here we go.
Hey, you
His camera's working.
Hello, how are you guys?
Hi, Jim.
All right. All right. Still not quite the same, but you know,
I've never
as good as we're gonna get. So
I've only seen Jim moving around from spot to spot, so it's nice to see you sitting down, Jim.
I like your lighting designer.
Thank you.
All right.
Okay.
Okay.
So you want to start with
Sure. I can
Brenda?
lead into that a little bit.
Okay.
Yeah.
Somebody's-
You know,
Oh,
Jim
you want
takes
to pull up
care-
the page?
Yeah, well, we scroll up to the
Okay.
water budget overview. Jim's our expert on all the management of those water facilities. And we'll have him chime in whenever he'd like to add something.
Are you seeing the schedule there?
Yep, looks good,
Okay.
Larry.
Yep.
Okay. After I've worked with Jim on the budget and any suggestions he had on budgetary changes, I've looked at our debt service in the fund. And very importantly, I've looked at our expenses year to date and a projection as to where we'll end by May 31st. We do have some positive news. I do project an increase, if all goes as planned or as we see it, of about $135,000. We have in our budget a contingency of $100,000 that helps to increase that fund balance. You can see how we've had a nice steady increase of fund balance since 2018.
And if you remember, for historical purposes, when Connie and I got on the board, it was a negative, what, 1.8 million, something like that, Larry?
About that, yeah.
So,
Yep.
It was a slow but steady increase that was actually planned. We had to plan our way through some budgetary, changes and some, unfortunately, increases in tax rates or the water rates to keep pace with operation costs and the cost of water. But I think we're on a good place right now with our water rates. I think Jim can attest to this. Our billings through this year were very, very high. I think anecdotally, maybe it's attributed to the fact that people are home, families are home, children have come home to live with the parents, and water consumption has been high and very high excess charges throughout the summer and through the fall.
I feel like it's my running toilets that I have to keep fixing the seals on, but.
Well,
Now that people are home, they're actually finding a lot of problems with that, with their toilets and whatnot, because now they're actually looking at their bills a little closer, I think. So
Yeah, no, I honestly, like, all kidding aside, I think I've had 3 toilets where I've had to replace a chain and I've had to replace the seal. It's kind of funny. I was actually,
you actually use a lot of water that way, leaky toilet.
oh, absolutely.
It
And
adds up.
every time I hear the, like I can usually hear it running. That's how I know. I always think of Jim Inglesby, which is kind of a strange thing, but I always think of Jim going, what a waste. So
Yeah,
I almost text you and apologize every time it happens.
it happens.
So Jim, with excess usage or high usage and the rates go up, obviously the rates go up under the contract, the village contract with New York City, but is there any other downside? I mean, that's that rate increase goes out to each individual water user, right? Each household, each meter that
Right.
shows.
Well, when they only get the excess rate is when they go over 100 units. So that's over a 3-month period, 100 units. Once they go above 100, then they go into excess rate. So as long as they stay under 100, they'll never reach that excess rate. But as soon as you go over 100, it goes up.
And I'm wondering, I was thinking more in terms of, is there another level of, I don't want to call it penalty, but another level of cost increase to the village if it goes above a certain level?
I wouldn't say so. I mean, during average usage, we use about 550 to 600,000 gallons a day. And during the summer, it goes up to 1.4, 1.2. So a large majority of that is irrigation. So, when they go above the 100, usually the key factor is irrigation or a pool or something like that, just not daily usage. So if they want to have a green yard, they kind of get penalized. And, we cover our costs by the excess rate.
Yeah, I guess, okay, I'll try one more thing and see if this triggers anything, but is there any limit to the amount of water the village is allocated? In other words, can we reach a ceiling where there's?
Well, our system's only good for up to 4 million gallons a day. So that would be.
You mean the
you know,
capacity, throughput
The capacity of the system's 4 million gallons a day. So, if we got over that, then there would be a problem. We wouldn't be able to supply enough water.
But at that point, I mean, I think we've been up in the 2 million gallon range per day.
Very, very rare.
Oh,
I
yeah,
would-
no, totally,
I
totally
would
rare.
say, the most on average would probably be about, I mean, I can get the number, but it's usually about 1.2.
Right. Yeah, no,
So
no, I'm
the
saying,
next-
but at a peak moment, we may have gone to 2, but
Yeah, our
you know,
peak is
and it-
2.2 was the
yeah, and at
highest.
some point, there's water restrictions that we would put in place.
Right.
And, you know,
Right, that's what I was, I guess at some point there might, if there was a drought, there'd be restrictions for community, all communities on the tap, I guess.
Yeah,
Yeah.
well, we also have that in our code, also, water restrictions. So if we had a drought or something like that, there's different levels of water restriction, which we would go into.
Which we have over the years.
Right, like you can't wash your car, you can't, you can't
Yeah.
fill your pool,
Odd and
can't
even
water your
days.
grass,
yeah, we've done that before.
right?
Yep.
So what is always a task is looking at our water rates and to see if they hold water. It's not a pun. During different times or fluctuation of usage. So in a summer like the one we've had with high excess, is our water rate working properly so that we are covering those costs? And I think at this time, it's a positive indicator that it is. Our excess expense line is high, but also our water revenue has been equally higher. So that has been doing well and it looks balanced. So after looking at these various items on components of the budget, you can see a significant decrease in debt service this past year, or next year rather, and that's due to one of our bonds maturing, and we no longer have that expense in the fund. That with a generally, level budget, no major expense changes. We are increasing the line for New York City excess charges, just what we see happening. And in the event that there is an increase, we anticipate an increase next year in general water rates. We don't know what it is. We factored that in. But at this time, we're proposing no rate change for next year, given the fact that we've added to the fund balance this year and we have that decrease in debt service. So that would be an overview of where we see the fund. And we're happy to, if that's the case, give a break to our residents at the same time and not putting out a water increase. Things could change if something else develops unforeseen between now and budget adoption.
Seems good. It's all
There's
good
not a
news.
lot going on, yeah. In other words, the fund is in balance. The fund's in a good spot right now, and there's not a lot of changes, as you can see here. The changes that are up on the screen are, either contractual because of salaries, or, as Brenda described, the excess charge line, and then the debt service. That's really it.
We're still able to get a lot of maintenance done, like we replaced all the valves on South Buckout before the paving project. That was, I think last year we replaced 7 fire hydrants and 8 main valves, water main valves.
And keep in mind that Jim's department, as well as the DPW and certain administrative departments, are still functioning at basically half staff. So there's probably not a lot of maintenance going on right now. They're really just trying to get by. But hopefully, if the light's at the end of the tunnel in due course, maybe by the end of March, or we can get back to a more normal staffing level and have confidence in having everyone in working.
Jim, just a quick question, without trying to put ideas, well, I guess we don't have too many people watching, but But, in the news lately, there have been questions about security of water supplies for communities and possible threats. And is that something that we look into? Is that something that our police department is doing? And is there any type of budgeting that can or should be done for that?
Well, I have a cybersecurity plan. Every water department has to have we have to do a vulnerability assessment plan. And off of that, we have to do an emergency action plan. So we have all those documents, and I have a cybersecurity portion of it. And what ended up happening was somebody, like a lot of places, you could go home on your laptop and log in and control certain things, but
Right, that's what I was thinking about. I just read that happened somewhere, I think.
yeah, we got alerts on that from the FBI and different things. But the good thing is we're a small system and all our stuff is manually controlled. So there's no way that anybody can access it via computer and do anything to any of our systems. So
Thanks, Jim.
you're welcome. Oh, and we also have fencing around every building. We have cameras on the entrances and, on the tanks. On any vital infrastructure, we have cameras now, so. Also,
And a lot of those fencing mandates came about as a result of 9/11, if I recall correctly.
yes,
I mean, it took time for the, things to roll out, but that's where it came from.
so we upgraded the Riverview Booster Station, which is just up from the mayor's house. That never had a fence around it, and once we upgraded it, we had to put the barbed wire fence around it. Or not a barbed wire fence, but some fencing. That was a mandatory requirement due to 9/11 and terrorist threats and whatnot. So
Yeah, it's probably
everything has to have a fence around it.
Yeah, decent sized fence.
Yes. That was the smallest they possibly let me put in.
Yep. I think we're still doing landscaping around it for the neighborhood.
Yes. I've approached them quite a few times and I've never been able to get a hold of them. So hopefully this spring I'll get a hold of them.
Sounds good. But yeah, this is, I'm happy to see that, things are in good shape and, there's not too much we need to do this year.
Any other questions about water?
That's good.
We can,
In Texas. God.
yeah. We can get on to something even more mundane, which is the sewer department. Hold on.
They have a problem there too, I guess.
Yeah.
Well, nothing's underground. A lot of the stuff is buried very shallow. So you get this type of weather, it all starts freezing up and breaking.
In Texas, not here.
No. We had one on Monday on Maple, but it was kind of routine.
Can you see that on the screen? Is that showing up?
I think
Okay.
we're missing a little bit of the top, but it's pretty close.
Can't see the there.
Okay,
There
that's
we
Not
go.
fine.
much there.
I would rather see the bottom. Yeah.
Okay, zoom at one minus on there, Larry, maybe gets.
Yeah, I was just hoping to give you a chance to look at it. Okay,
Okay.
there you go.
We were, at this time, we may make a few revisions to our recommendation because we were hoping to, well, as you know, the sewer component of the average, bill is far less than the water component. So it's a very small amount, but we're looking to maybe increase it by 2%. And the reason being is that if you look at the fund balance, it did have a large fund balance going back to 2016. The drawdown was planned. We were allocating some years 20,000, 22,000. Last year, we only allocated $2,700 because it was getting more in line with what the fund balance should be for a fund of this size. But I don't think that, but what it would mean is dipping into the fund balance. You see on the top, I was recommending originally, if you go a little higher on the revenue side, allocating on top of the 2,700, another $5,000. So it's closer to 8,000. And then in looking at really the fund balance of 24,000, if we bring it down to 8, it's about a 10% fund balance. And we felt that maybe we should just do a 2% increase next year. It's reasonable. And then instead of allocating the 5,440, allocate an additional, $2,000. So it would be about a $5,000 allocation of surplus. So that was just it. It was, it's a small increase, but it would be keeping the fund in a better situation as opposed to raising the rate higher in the next year.
So
And
could you go
again,
through that, summarize
make-
that one more time? With what is the amount you'd be taking out of surplus and then
A total of about 5,000.
as opposed to 5,440?
Yeah, let me just see what it would be exactly. Hold on a second.
No,
It would be, hold on. It would be 8,140, 8,140 minus 3,500. Surplus allocate would be 4,640 to be exact.
And sorry, just to explain, I know the numbers are a little bit confusing. The surplus number that's shown here, that's the change, that's the extra surplus that we were going to need.
Correct.
That number, this $5,400 would go down by about 3,500. So we would still need a little extra surplus, but not that much extra. That's our point. And if a 2% increase in the sewer rate is approved.
And so what does that do to the fund balance?
It would, if the fund balance comes in as projected, it would decrease, be a planned decrease of $4,600.
Off of 24,800.
And basically, the whole fund has appropriations of about $200,000.
So we're looking for nominally 20,000 as a balance?
That's about 20,000.
Yeah. That's reasonable. We don't want to go below that is essentially what we're saying.
It's a difference of $3,500 basically. So what we would do is look to increase revenues by $3,500 with a minor, sewer increase. And not use the fund balance, because otherwise you're bringing the fund balance down to about 16,000.
So this isn't a change, this 2% is not a change in the public's rent. It's some
Yeah.
movement.
It's actually pennies to
It is though, yes.
Oh, it is. Okay, all right.
Right.
That's-
pennies.
So every person's bill except someone that does not have a sewer, which we do have a few residents that don't. But every person that has a sewer hookup has two components on their water bill. The water component and the sewer component. And the relationship between the two is roughly, the sewer charge is about 10% of
Right.
the water charge. You know what I mean? So if you get $100 bill, $10 of it is the sewer charge. And what we're
Right.
suggesting is that the sewer only be increased by 2%, which is the much smaller piece. So it's really, as Brenda said, it very, very often would be pennies for most.
And it's not affected, that is not affected by someone whose water bill has an overage. There's no connection between the overage charges from
Yeah,
the.
they get an excess charge on their sewer bill also.
You also get that, oh, okay.
Yes.
Looked at these bills for many years, but I guess I don't analyze them that way. All right, well, if, I'm sure if you and Brenda think this makes sense, it seems reasonable to me. I mean, for most people, this is pennies. And it keeps these numbers in the place that you feel comfortable with, and it looks fine to me, so.
Right. It's just, it's increasing the revenues by $3,500, which spread over the entire consumption of the village is very small. Right. Okay. So that's the only thing that would be, otherwise you see the items that have changes. The town taxes have not been as high as anticipated. I think maybe a property that we had a number of years ago is now exempt. But we do pay sewer taxes on properties. I don't recall why it went down, but it went down. We have a few salary changes, and otherwise it's just a shift here and there, commensurate, with the increases in retirement contributions and Social Security. It's really just to recognize that there is a sewer. We don't have a sewer plant, but we have one individual salary that's attributed to sewer for budgeting purposes. And we do get some money back from the East Irvington Sewer District. We get about $10,000.
Greenberg, right.
Okay.
Great.
Any questions? Okay.
Thanks for that, Jim. And DPW, Larry, you're gonna.
No, Jim's going to stay on.
Okay.
Yeah, Greg's not available for the meeting tonight, but we have Jim, and Brenda and I are going to do our best to fill in for Greg. So.
Okay.
And we're only bringing up the summary pages here. We certainly can dig into some of the details if any questions come up, or if you want to see, any past comparisons or anything like that. But, just speak up. But we're just starting with the summaries at this point.
It looks to me like the only large increase is the putting the paving back in, or putting paving in that should be in.
That's right.
Yeah, as you recall from last budget cycle, that 60,000 was in there, ready to be included in the budget, which really would have completed the transition from borrowing for paving over to funding it within your budget. And the board took that out at the last minute in light of the pandemic and the economic crisis and the uncertainties associated with that. So, but we think that, there's an opportunity to reintroduce that here. As you said, the entire increase for the entire DPW budget is 48,000, a little over 48,000. And, 60,000 is attributed just to the paving, which you can keep in or take out any way you want. But, puts it in context for you.
What's the EV charging station? Is that another station, or is that ongoing maintenance of the existing ones that were just turned on?
That would be the monthly electrical bill, the electric bill we get, that we receive.
It's the electric charge. It's the usage charges for the stations.
Yeah.
Yep.
So they're running about $250 a month, $260, $270. We've had it since about October, maybe September, October. So they've been under $300 a month, between $250 and $300.
So are all the charging heads functional again? I mean, I remember there was a problem with some of them apparently not breaking or not functioning properly.
Last I checked, they are, but I can double check to be sure if there's any errors. I haven't seen anything.
I haven't heard any problems, but I know that I heard some a couple months ago about.
Yeah. No, that was taken care of at the time.
Yeah, and we have an ongoing contract for maintenance. Is that correct?
Yes.
And where does that show up?
It's not big. I mean, the maintenance contract itself is not an all-inclusive covering everything type contract. It's really almost like a retainer. So if there's failures, there'll be some extra charges, but they're really not that significant. If they turn out to be significant, then we'll see. But it hasn't been a problem up till now.
That would be in the DPW budget, though. I mean, that's where it's being housed.
Yes.
So, I mean, again, this seems very straightforward. I think what I will note is where, seeing where the overall budget comes out, that $60,000 again, maybe we end up, putting in 50 or 30 or whatever. I think that's the one spot that we could probably, look to potentially phase it in if we need to. Like right now, I think we should leave it where we are in the budget process. I think we leave it the way it is. get it all in there and have that over with. But, to me, that is like the one spot where we can, potentially, kind of keep it where it is in the, kind of bonding piece, but.
Right.
What we did last year is we decided, once we knew where the fund balance was for the village, we appropriated the 60,000 from fund balance. So we ended up not borrowing for it last year, this current year, but using fund balance for it.
Yeah, this is a great result
That
as
could
well.
always be done again if that were the case.
Well, and we took advantage of the timing of everything. So, you had to make your decisions about the tax rate and the budget by
Yeah.
early April. But the capital budget and the final, paving budget didn't have to be decided until June. And frankly, a lot of things changed from April to June, if you can remember.
I was paying attention.
Things looked a bit brighter. So not that we're out of the woods or anything, but they were certainly better than April.
Yeah.
So time has a way of helping in those instances.
This, I know it's not this upcoming budget, but I was just wondering about the recent costs related to all the snow events, snow, ice, drizzle, freezing, whatever mix. Whether or not that's been above what we expected, or you don't have, if you can't answer this, I don't want to put you on the spot, but we usually have a pretty generous
Expensive.
amount, right?
It's like-
Yeah.
Yeah,
So what I think
there we go, page 9.
what I think was helpful to understand is we try to budget for what we consider to be an average year. Now, what's average? There's no definition of that necessarily. Every year is different in the sense that, it may seem like a tough winter for you because it snows a lot, but actually snow doesn't really take a lot of material to deal with. That's a lot of plowing, a lot of labor. So on the other hand, ice storms are much more difficult on material. So, it just depends on the year. So what we did is, and we were talking about this before the meeting, Jim and Brenda and I, we looked at the two main budget lines, which are on this screen. The first one is the overtime personal services. And we saw that the overtime, well, certainly for this year, we're already over budget, 96,000, and that's as of probably a couple of days ago.
Doesn't include this snowstorm, right? That was
Right. So it's that we're over budget on overtime, 96 versus 80,000 budget. But what was interesting, and this is why we proposed an increase, is that last year was, I think by all accounts, a less than average year, not an average year. So it was far less. And we still ran up $70,000 worth of overtime last year on an $80,000 budget. So clearly, we're not at $80,000. We're not budgeting for an average year. So we feel that 95 is closer to an average. It gets us closer. Will it cover a tougher year like this year? Of course not. But we know that. So anyway, that's the philosophy on that. Now, taking that a step further, if you look down at the supply line, which is obviously our salt and calcium chloride purchases, that number of 38,000 so far to date, that number is going to go up. I'm sure we've had some truckloads recently that we haven't been billed for. So we probably will come much closer to this budget, maybe go over, maybe not go over, I'm not sure. But last year, with it being a light year, we were at 59,000 on a $100,000 budget. So that makes sense. That's a low year. We were low. So it does look like the 100,000 is really closer to an average year than not. So that's why we're not proposing an increase on this line. So that's how we go through this and look at it. It's not an exact science, but it's as much as we can do.
Yes, I recall this over the years, but. Okay.
Yeah, it's a guess, but it's an educated guess. It's not just out of nowhere.
Okay, I'm good.
Let me head back up to the summary. I think there were a couple of things we should probably just touch on. Jim, on part-time labor in highway, and then also materials and vehicle maintenance are the other items that are, that kind of stand out. Not big, but they stand out. I don't know if you
With
wanna-
vehicle maintenance, this year we had a bunch of large repairs, salt truck, garbage trucks, engine heater blocks, the sweeper, needed to go out 2 times for hydraulic hoses, which involves taking off the cab. And, we have trucks, the salt eats the truck, so they need a lot of maintenance, and, a lot of the major repairs, they have to go out to Reds or to another shop. So, so the price of repairs are going up a bit as our fleet gets a little older.
And then the road repair materials.
Materials, the cost of materials are increasing, but we're also more work is being done. Like we did the curbs on Hancock Place, all the road restoration for the valve replacements. We've had a lot of catch basin repairs, which, you need materials, sidewalk work, and coming up, of course, we're gonna have to do a lot of pothole and pavement repairs after the winter time here. So that's why we need a bit more money to make our repairs.
But that's a good thing. Work is being done. So maybe not right now at this particular moment, but in general.
Springtime, we get hot and heavy with starting to do repairs. Emergency repairs is needed, but springtime's when we really start kicking it off into the summer, fall.
Any other questions? Or you can see there's salary reductions in here. There, well, you know about them. There's been a few retirements, and you've hired a few replacements along the way. So that's what's reflected there. Just lower salaries because of that.
Say it's been a good year as far as a couple of reductions that in past years we wouldn't have seen. It's just the timing for this year between some salaries, debt service, has really helped out in the budget process.
Anything else? We can let Jim off the hook.
Thank you, Jim.
You're free to stay around, Jim. You're always welcome at our meetings.
I appreciate it.
I don't think Frank stuck around very long either, so it's okay.
Thank you.
Dinner's just coming out of the oven, so.
Yeah, right.
Better go get it while it's hot.
Yeah,
All right, well, everybody be well, healthy, safe, and I'll see you next time.
You too, my friend. Be well.
Thank you,
Thank you
Jim.
very much.
Neighborhood.
You'll see me running around the village.
Hopefully no more water main breaks.
Yeah, well, it's part of the business, but thank God we've done some maintenance and they're getting a bit easier with the valve restorations and stuff, so.
He, Jim didn't even take a moment to toot his own horn that he had the sanitary survey from the county yesterday, right?
Yeah,
And,
yeah.
No violations reported, so.
No violations, no deficiencies, everything was up to snuff. I just redid our comprehensive sampling plan, our emergency response plan, our vulnerability assessment plan, so everything's up to date, and we're working on the Halsey Pond emergency action plan and some other work there, so there's another step to that, so we're moving along.
I was going to say, it's always a good year we don't find another dam we didn't know we owned.
Yeah, exactly. We still got a little more work to do to Halsey's, so.
Yeah, I reported to them last meeting about that, so they know there's work to be done.
Not too bad though, so we'll get it done.
All right.
All right, you all have a good night now.
All right, Jim, thanks.
Thanks, Jim.
Take it easy. Bye-bye.
Good night. Next up, village trustee liaison reports. Shall we start with Mark?
Yeah, I'm taking a pass.
Okay. No worries. Larry?
Not much. I mean, I would just mention that I spoke with Joe Archino for the first time in a while, and he was really pleased with the efforts that have been done to really maintain the food deliveries to seniors. A lot of volunteers are spending a lot of time And the police department particularly, he mentioned, did an awfully good job yesterday trying to get ahead of the snow and making deliveries.
Great.
Do they need more volunteers or they're all set?
They can always use volunteers.
And it's a matter of driving the food to the
Right,
location.
it's generally making deliveries, right?
Okay, thanks.
And you can certainly reach out to Laura about that.
Okay.
You also profusely apologized to me that the Christmas tree is still up in front of Village Hall, and I guess, I'm not sure if there's other decorations, but they've been shorthanded, as you know, and so I told them, and plus it got snowed in there for a little while, but they'll get to it. But I told them, don't worry, we understand. It's not a big
It
deal.
makes it festive.
Yeah, exactly. We did turn the lights off, so you're okay there.
Maybe we can relight them again for Easter.
Very
Does that say,
good.
Larry?
That's it.
Connie?
Oh, yeah, okay, so some of you saw, I think everybody on the board and some of the people in the public probably saw the Hudson Independent article about the River Towns Chamber of Commerce. So I got in touch with this Michelle Adams, who has replaced Nick Campbell as the president of that group. So Irvington is part of a group of chambers, as opposed to years ago where each one had their own. And I got an immediate long response from Michelle Adams, and she updated me on a few things. I won't go over all of it now, but I will say that Janet Kovacs, who we all know, I think, is actually the Irvington representative to what she calls community organizations. So in each village, they have set up people in business, the local business people, to do particular jobs for the chamber, of volunteer jobs. But what she said, interestingly, that Janet fills that role. And there's a second role that they would love to have a person fill in Irvington. So the role is called, it's a kind of a mouthful, but it's called a business owner who would be the liaison for government affairs and economic development. So, I mean, it sounds like maybe it's felt a little off-putting to a business owner. It sounded like too much to do, but I thought I'd talk to Janet. So I don't think I've heard back from her yet, but and set up because that would be a very valuable person for us, I think, in the village, to have somebody from the business community who is particularly connected to government affairs. It would be, helpful to get messages back and forth, I think. So anyway, I'll follow up on that. And she gave me all kinds of things that they're interested in, and I'll probably meet with her. I don't think I have anything on the theater, but I think they've continued. Isn't the Linda Ronstadt fundraiser, that thing was redone recently. They're redoing certain things and putting them up for viewing. And I always find everyone in the theater very helpful and trying to do all they can in these odd times. So anyway.
We have a new one coming on, we have a date, I believe. It's actually, I thought it was March, but it's actually April. I guess we don't have to talk about it now, but she's a friend of mine who was in my last Broadway show, has a one-woman show that she's out in California now, but she's gonna kind of tape it and we're gonna play it over it. So she's great. She's one of my favorite people of all time. She's unbelievably talented, but should be fun. Should be fun.
Well, that's great, because they've had a comedy series for a while.
Yeah, hers. It's she's actually she's from Canada, but she's a Filipino descent, and it's called What I Did to Get a Job, and it talks about like her whole career from being in like Toronto theater to Broadway, and how for the first like 10 years they only would let her be in Miss Saigon because she was Asian. So it's a funny kind of cool show, but it kind of fits in with our diversity series and women, and it's gonna be a fun show. I actually saw it performed live at 54 Below a couple of years ago, but we asked her if she could tape it, and she said sure. So we'll see what it is. I can't wait to see what she made. So I haven't seen it yet, But
Well,
that's,
You're proving the description that we are a community theater, right?
that's right. That's right.
Input from the community about what is to be shown, and we have volunteer commissioners who do a great job. So it's an odd time for people in the theater, but
Absolutely.
through it. All right, that's my report. Thank you.
Great. And Jazz?
Yes, for this school, a very important meeting coming up on Tuesday, the 23rd of February. Dr. Harrison will lead a discussion about the process to try to increase daily student attendance. And connected with that was that Dr. Harrison was able to coordinate COVID vaccination clinic through Westchester County. It was held on Monday, and approximately 120 staff members were scheduled to receive their vaccination, which should be a really important step in getting the kids back to school. And while ensuring the health of the school community. So they were very appreciative for County Executive Latimer for her support in making this done. The other big item is that the district is forging ahead with its capital bond project. This summer we'll see construction at Dow's Lane in the middle school, high school campus. First phase will include in the middle school, high school campus, a new entry vestibules in the middle school, and closing all campus buildings to enhance security, installation of new bleachers and press box at Mazzaro's Field and Ole Track, and construction of the campus learning pavilion that will include storage, concession space, athletic trainer's office, outdoor restrooms, water fountain, and an outdoor classrooms. And at Dow's Lane, construction of an outdoor restroom, new entry vestibules for enhanced security, new gym floor and AC in the gym, and paving of the parking lot. All other projects in phase 2 will be completed next summer, and all information on the bond project is available on the district website. And that's it for them. Thank you.
Excellent. Let me unmute because my dogs were barking. Next up, the village administrator's report.
Nothing specific other than, continuing with the police committee meetings, numerous each week. So hopefully we'll be getting to a draft report soon, by the end of the month, hopefully, and look forward to working on that in March.
Excellent. Village clerk treasurer's report.
Tomorrow, our financial programs are being migrated to a new server. So it'll be a cutover. We don't anticipate any difficulty. There's little busy things behind the scenes. And we're also looking at a new tax program, which if ready, we will implement for the June bill. So we're working with the same company, but an upgrade of a new program. It's actually a new program.
Great. Village attorney's report. Public comment? Earl? That's all that's left. What Earl thinks, if he needs anything to say. Review of action items, Larry? I didn't really have anything. So if Earl doesn't have anything to say, I will make a motion to adjourn. If I can have a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
All right. So you have a link for the next?
Correct.
Okay.
Okay.
Very good.
Thanks, guys. Have a good night, everybody.